Hello. So I recently did a video on Conquest of the Empire Classic Edition, and since this game came with both the Classic and the Conquest of the Empire 2 rule set, I decided I'd go ahead and do a video on the Conquest of the Empire 2 rule set. So this is going to be a setup, how to play, and then a couple of turns. And then well, if you watch the previous video on the classic rules, then you'll see the differences, but I'll give my thoughts on the differences. This one is obviously it seems to have a lot more detail than just the classic edition, but we'll see all that as we get into it. I did play this version once about 7 years ago. I don't remember a whole lot of it. What I do remember, I'll get to when I finish the how to play and kind of give a little bit of my thoughts on it. But let's get into setup. So in setup, at the beginning of the game, each player gets a Caesar figure, a general figure, 8 infantry figures, 2 cavalry, 1 catapult, 1 galley, 4 influence tokens, 80 talents, and 3 senator cards, one with a 1 value, one with a 2 value, and one with a 3 value. And none of these units are placed on the board during setup. That'll happen during the first turn of the game. Then you take the 5 Senate vote cards, and the rules say to put them face up next to the game board. This board's so big for my solo play table that I don't have room to put them next to the game board, so I'm just putting them up here at the top of the game board in an area that's not really used for provinces or anything. So the 5 Senate vote cards are laid out face up. Then the rest of the deck of cards are shuffled and placed next to the game board. Again, I don't have room, so I'm just setting mine up here at the top of the game board in this logo area. Then you'll have these province tokens in a bag or laid out face down in a pile, however you want to do it. And each player will draw 4 random province tokens, and each one will have the name of a province. And you will put one of your influence tokens in each of the 4 provinces that you draw. If you do draw in Italia, you put it back in the bag or back on the table, however you have it, and draw another one. So you can't put an influence token in Italia at the setup. So each player will draw 4, put one of their influence markers in that in those 4 areas, and then the province tokens that they've drawn will be placed out of the game. So I've done that here already, and you can see purple got one in Hispania, red got one there in Narbonensis, or red and purple got one in Neapolis, blue got 2 in Accia, blue got one in Asia, purple got one in Asia, blue and red both got one in Galatia, red got one in Mesopotamia, and purple got one down here in Numidia. Then all your leftover coins are just set aside next to the table somewhere to become your bank. And that's it for setup. It's pretty quick and easy. I'm playing 3 players, got the blue player here, red player with his pieces, cards, and money down here, and purple player with their pieces, cards, and money down here. Again, as I said, on this table, I'm pretty crowded, but now we'll get to the how to play. Alright, so how to play. Well, each campaign season, which there's 4 campaign seasons. You can play a 5th one if you want a longer game, it says, but the normal game is 4 campaign seasons. And first thing done at the beginning of a campaign season is place province tokens. So you'll take your bag of province tokens, and of course probably you shouldn't have a clear bag, but you'll randomly draw twice the number of players, number of tokens. So I'm just going to mix, and since I've got 3 players, I'll draw 6. Alright, there's 6. And then you place those in the board wherever it says. So Egyptus goes down here. Galatia goes over here. Mesopotamia goes over here. Numidia, that one goes down here. And Narbonensis goes there. Alright, so you draw, wait, is that all? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oh, I have one more. Another Mesopotamia. So again, you draw twice the number of players and put them in the provinces that you drew. Then you'll draw conquest cards, a number up to twice the number of players, and put them beside the board, or in my case, I'm going to put them up here. So that'll be 6 cards. 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Okay, next is the determine alliances step. So you'll have a token of each player, and starting with whoever's the random first player for the first round of the game, or first campaign season of the game, they will propose an alliance. Now the way that works is they'll say blue is the random first player, so up until now. So he's going to propose an alliance. So if he says A will be the blue himself and red will be B. So what that means is if that proposal goes through, A will put his token here and he'll actually be the first player, and B will be the second player, but also they will be opposed to each other. So they will be able to attack each other or buy each other's influence token and so forth. If you're in the same row as somebody, then you're in an alliance with them for that campaign season, and you will not be able to attack them or buy their influence tokens in provinces. But in a battle, if your ally is in the same province a battle you're in is taking place, you can actually, your ally can assist with units. So for our example, the blue player proposes A and B, and then you actually bid on this. So he says, you know, he's gonna bid $10 on this proposal. Now it goes to the next player, and they can bid more to change the proposal to something else. So say the next player to A's left is the purple player. Well, he wants to be first player. He doesn't really care who he's against at this point. So he says, no, I'm going to bid 20 to be, you know, to make that proposal. And then it would go to red, and we'll just say, well, red doesn't want to bid more than 20, so he passes. Blue doesn't want to bid more than 20, so he passes, so this proposal is accepted. So when we get to the rounds, purple will be the first player, red will be the second player, and they will be opposed. They will be able to attack each other and so forth. Now, he's got to pay the 20. The purple player has to pay the 20 that he bid. So that goes to the bank. And now the only player left in a 3-player game is blue. Now, there still is another bid, because even though he will actually go third no matter whether he's in the third or fourth slot. It's also going to choose who he's allied with. So blue was first, so he got to make the first proposal. So now the next proposal is made by purple. So now purple will make a bid of where he wants blue to be. So let's just say, he wants blue to be in an alliance with him. So he'll bid, he'll get change for this 10 and bid. So purple bids 5 to put the blue player in the A alliance. Now we'll go to red to decide, does he want to bid more to move A to the B alliance? Well, he says, yeah, he doesn't want to get attacked by A maybe, so he'll bid 10. He'll bid 10 to put A in the B alliance. And then it would go to blue, and blue says, I don't care where I'm at. So it comes back to purple, and purple says, okay, we'll go with that. So blue will be in an alliance with red for this campaign season. So all the alliances are set. And of course, if you have more players, you go till all up to 6 players have been put in an alliance. Now next, and this is only at the beginning of the game in the very first campaign season, players will place their starting units. So starting with whoever the first player is, which is purple, he'll now place all his starting units, and he has to place them in provinces where he has influence tokens at. So let me do that for him and I'll be back. So purple put some of his guys here in Neapolis where he has an influence token. He put some of his starting units here in Hispania. He put a couple here in Numidia and a few here in Asia. So then we go to the second player that is now red, and he'll place all his starting units. So I'll do that and be back. Okay, so red placed some of his up here in Narbonensis, some of his also here in Neapolis. Put his galley or trireme here. I didn't mention with the purple player, but when you place your ship, it has to go in a sea zone that's adjacent to where you have an influence. So red has an influence here, so he can place his ship in this sea zone because it's adjacent to Neapolis. And purple put his in this sea zone here, and that's adjacent to where he has a purple token in Asia there. So finally, it's blue's turn, so he'll place his units. So blue placed some of his units here in Achia. He placed some of his in Asia. Placed some of his in Galatia. And I guess that's it, because that was 1, 2, 3. That was his 4 influence tokens. Alright, so that place starting units only takes place in the very first campaign season of the game. But that's all complete now. So next thing in the campaign season is player actions. So you'll have 4 rounds of player actions, and in each round each player can take 2 actions. So it would start with purple, since he's first player, and he gets to take 2 actions. So what are the actions he can take? Well, one of the actions you can take is obtain a Conquest card. So that can be one of the 6 cards up here or one of these Senate vote cards. And when you obtain one, you got to pay the price in coins that's in the bottom right corner. So like 15 for the Senate vote, 5 for this naval training. These senator cards don't cost anything. And the senator cards, those when there's a Senate vote, you use your senator cards. You like bid with your senator cards, so those are good to have. The Senate votes, anything with this purple diamond, That's something you can play. It's not an action. I mean, if you have one, you can play it, but only once per campaign season. And so, like, if somebody takes a Senate vote card whenever they decide to play it for whatever, like this one is, the winner gains 15 victory points. So if somebody had taken that card and they decide to play it, again, that's not one of your actions. They say, I'm calling for a vote on Hail Caesar. The winner gains 15 victory points. So then what you'll do, starting with the player that plays that card, is you'll bid with your senator cards. Now remember, everybody starts with a 1, a 2, and a 3 value senator card. So, he may say, I'm going to bid 3. Then another player could say, I'm going to bid 4 for that. So you go around bidding until somebody, has bid the most and the other players pass. And then whoever bid the most would gain, those victory points if that's what was being voted on. And then that card is then turned over and can't be used again by that player that in that campaign season. Then the cards that were the player that won the bid, his cards get discarded, except if there's influence in Rome, the player with the most influence in Rome gets to draw randomly one of those discarded vote cards and gets to keep that. If there's none, or if it's a tied, then nobody gets to draw one of those senator cards, so they're just discarded. So that's with the Senate vote cards. The other cards just have different, things. Like this one, the owner gets an extra dice in all naval battles. So one of the actions you can do is obtain a Conquest card. You can either take a free one or pay for one that costs money, whatever you want to do. That's one of the actions you can take. And you can only do that once per round. So even though you have 2 actions per round, you can't get 2 Conquest cards in a round, just 1. So another action you can do on your turn is recruit. And you can only recruit into a province where you have an influence token and a leader or a Caesar. So, purple, he's got a general here in Neapolis and an influence token. So he could recruit units into there, or he's got his Caesar over here in Asia and an influence token, so he could recruit units into there. And you just pay money, out of the money you own. 5 gold for an infantry, 10 gold for a cavalry, 15 gold for a catapult, 15 gold for a galley or trireme, and 20 gold for another general. You only start with 1 general and a Caesar, but you can pay 20 to get another general. And you can buy as many units as you want as long as you have the money to buy it. So that's another thing you can do. All right, another action you can take is buy influence. So, for instance, here, if there's a province with a province token in it, you can spend, and you have to have a general or a Caesar, one of your leaders, either a general or a Caesar, in the province. You can pay 10 gold to remove that province token, then it's just discarded from the game and you replace it with one of your influence tokens. So anywhere there's a province token, you can do that. So here, red or blue, well, no, they don't have a leader here, so they couldn't do it. Where's another one? Okay, here, red, he has a general, so he could purchase one of these province tokens and replace it with one of his colored influence tokens. Now, if you do it with a general, you can only buy 1 influence for an action. If you do it with a Caesar, you can buy 2 influence. So that's one of the ways to buy influence, is to use the province tokens. The other way you can buy influence is by buying another color's influence and changing it to your color. Now, you can only do that to somebody who's not your ally. So for instance, in this campaign season, red and blue could not buy each other's influence tokens. And also, you can't do it if your opposing faction, so purple is opposed to red and blue this campaign season. So they're here together. So, purple has a Caesar here. So say for one action he wanted to buy an influence, blue's influence. Well, he can't do it because blue has an army in here, so it's protected. So the only way you can buy another player's influence is they can't be your ally, and if they're your enemy for this campaign season, you have to defeat their troops, or they have to have no troops there. So if Caesar wanted to buy this blue token to change it to a purple, he would have to do a battle for one action, and hopefully defeat all blue's units here. And then if the blue token was then unprotected, he could then buy it and change it to a purple token. Now, if you just move in, if blue, just moved out of an area and left his token in there alone, and you moved a general or a Caesar in there, well, then there's no enemy units in there, so you could just buy it. And again, it's 10 gold, and a lone general or a lone Caesar does not protect one of your influence tokens. You have to have at least a military unit in there. Okay, another action you can take is called special tax, and you can basically tax your provinces or whatever. But really, when you do the special tax action, you can take from 5 to 25 talents, but for every 5 that you take, you have to take a chaos token. And this is a chaos token. And at the end of every campaign season, whoever has the most chaos tokens loses 10 victory points, and whoever has the second most chaos tokens loses 5 victory points. And they're cumulative. You don't get rid of them in between campaign seasons. And I didn't mention, when you do a recruit action, you also get 2 chaos tokens. So that's a way to gain chaos tokens, is doing a recruit action or a special tax action. And again, you can get from 5 to 25 talents with the special tax action. But for every 5 you took, you got to get 1 chaos token. Okay, another action you can take is land movement. So the way that works is wherever you have one of your leaders, either a Caesar or a general, you can move troops from that location. And they can move any number of provinces, connected adjacent provinces, as long as they stop when they enter an enemy province. So, for instance, here, if it's purple's turn, he wants to do a land movement for an action. He's got a Caesar there, so he could move 1, 2, all of his units here to pretty much anywhere he wanted to on the board. Because if he wanted to come down here to Egyptus, well, he doesn't have to go in through any enemy areas to do that. So he could move all of his units there, one of his units, and you can move to different destinations as long as they can't come from the same origin point. So he could move 2 guys over here to Mesopotamia, and then 2 guys down here to Egyptus. Now purple could not move this way across this strait where the arrows are, because he has an enemy. If an enemy galley or trireme is in a sea zone that contains one of those straits, one of those arrows, then your units cannot move across that. So purple, because for this campaign season he's opposed to blue, and blue has a trireme in there, he could not move that way, but he could move this way. And then there's another way to move. Say if purple's galley was over here in this sea zone. Because he's adjacent to a sea zone, he could move those units, and he has a leader there. He could move however many of those units he wanted from that space to any one of these provinces, because you can move, if you're in a province adjacent to a sea zone and you're able to move, you can move to a province adjacent to where you have a galley or a trireme. So in this case, purple could move. His trireme is in this sea zone, and there's two different possible provinces he could move to. So he can move 1, 2, 3, whatever of his units to one of these locations. Now you can't move more than 4 military units that way, through a naval move like that. You can move any number of generals or leaders that way, but only up to 4 military units. Okay, the next action you can take is a land battle. And the first thing you'll do in a land battle is declare where it's taking place. So for instance, if since blue and purple are opposed in this campaign season, say blue is declaring a land battle here in Asia. Then the next thing you do after you declare where the battle is taking place, you commit galleys. So if you have galleys in adjacent sea zones to where the battle is taking place, you can commit them and they'll be included in the battle. So in this case, like both blue and purple could say, yes, I'm committing my galley to this battle. Then the next thing you can do is commit allied troops. So since blue and red are allied, if red had some troops in this region, in this province, he could say that yes, he's going to commit them to the battle also. And then blue, since he would be the one initiating, since he's the one taking the action to initiate the land battle, he would then control those units until the battle was over. And then if those units survived, the control of them would go back to the owning player. But in this instance, there's no allies in there, so there would be no allies that commit to the battle. Then you form your battle armies. So, we'll just say blue's battle army would be, these guys, and purple's battle army would be these guys. And if they committed their galleys, they would be involved. And then you begin your rounds of battle. And it's a little different. It's close to the classic edition, but they're a little different. So in each round of battle, each player will roll 3 dice. It doesn't matter how many army, land units, combat units you have. You roll 3 dice. But if you have a leader or a Caesar, well, a Caesar or a general, so a leader, you get to roll an additional dice. So like in this case, blue has his Caesar and purple has his Caesar. So they both have a leader, so they would actually both get to roll 4 dice. And then if you had something like, if you had bought an army training card, that would let you roll another dice. But in this case, they don't have that card, but they do have a leader. So each player would get to roll 4 dice, and then you match up to the units you have. So in this case, this cavalry would match Blue's cavalry. This one would not, because he only has 1 cavalry unit. But then he rolled 2 infantry, which would match, he's got 3 infantry in there. So that would give him a total of 3 hits. 1 for the cavalry and 2 infantry. So then purple would have to eliminate, his 3 units would be eliminated. He still gets to roll. He would still get his 4 dice rolls. And, then he would match, if he rolled whatever, he would have had a terrible roll, 3 blanks. That's a catapult, so he doesn't have a catapult. But same as what Blue did, you would roll and match up to your own units, and then your opponent would take those hits. And in this case, where purple, that I just showed, purple got no hits and Blue got 3 hits, so he would lose his 3 combat units. Your leader unit doesn't get hit, but they just have to retreat if all of their combat units that they are with are destroyed. So in this case, those 3 combat units would have been hit. His leader would have to retreat to a province where there is not any enemy units, so he could retreat over here. But well, he would still have that ship in the battle. So what he could have done is take 2 infantry and 1 ship as a casualty, and he still would have had 1 infantry and his Caesar. So then he could fight another round. So even though he only had 1 extra unit, if they went another round of battle, he would still get to roll 3 dice. But of course, he could only, doesn't matter if he rolled 3 infantry, he only has 1 to match it up with, so he could at most get 1 hit in the next round of battle. But after your first round of battle, if both players still have units, then starting with the defender, they could decide if they're going to retreat, and then the attacker. And if you retreat, you can just retreat into an adjacent province that has no enemy units in it. And so you keep going until one side retreats or all their units are destroyed, and then whoever's the loser of the battle, because either their units were destroyed or they retreated, they have to get 2 chaos tokens. So that is land battle. Then another action you can do is, it's kind of a combination, Naval Move and Naval Battle. So when you do a naval move, it's kind of the opposite of a land move. So if you remember from a land move, you can, wherever you have a leader, you can move any units there out to different destinations, but they all have to originate from the same spot. Well, with a naval move, your ships can originate from different sea zones, but they all have to move to the same sea zone. So, if Blue had 1 ship here and another one here, and he wanted to move here, he could do that. So he would move his 1 ship from here and the other one from here. So they can originate in many different locations, but they all have to go to the same location. And it can be any number of spaces. He can move from all the way over here to here with a naval move. It's just as long as all your ships go to the same space. And then if you want to initiate a battle, you don't have to. But if you want to initiate a naval battle, then you just declare, I'm going to fight this ship, and then both ships get to roll only 1 dice, and unless you have like one of these cards, Naval Training, which lets you get an extra dice, but otherwise you would just roll 1 dice, and you only get a hit if you roll the ship, which is somewhere on here. There. And so if you get a hit, your enemy has to take a casualty. You can only, in a naval battle, you can only fight 3 rounds. So if there's still ships remaining after 3 rounds, then nobody loses, nobody has to retreat. But same with the land battle. If you do destroy, within those 3 rounds, if you destroy your enemy's ships and they lose the battle, then they have to get 2 chaos tokens. And the last action you can do is pass, but if you pass, that does count as one of your actions. So that covers all the actions you can do. So as we said, each round, every player will do 2 actions, and then you'll move to the next round. Each player will do 2 actions. Next round. For 4 rounds, at the end of the 4th round, after each player has done 2 actions, then you go to the taxes and upkeep phase. So in the taxes and upkeep phase, each player will get 5 talents for every influence token they have on the board. So for in this case, they just each still have 4. So purple would get 5, 10, 15, 20 talents. And then red would collect theirs and blue would collect theirs. So of course that's one of the reasons you want to get more influence tokens on the board, by buying province tokens or purchasing enemy tokens and converting them to your color. Because the more tokens you have on the board, the more money you'll get at the end of the campaign season. And then finally, you do the victory points and chaos phase. So in that, you'll just start with all of these provinces that have numbers like this where you're scoring. So whoever has the most influence in this region would get 10 victory points. And you use some spare tokens to score your victory points. So, for purple, since they're the only one with tokens in here, they have the most, so they would score 10 victory points. Now, if somebody had a second most, like if there were 2 purple tokens in here and 1 red, well then red would get the score for second most tokens. If there's a tie for first or tie for second, both players score. So if somebody else had 1 token in here, like blue, then since they each had 1 token, blue and purple would both score 10 victory points. So you score that for each of these key regions that have these scoring numbers. So here, red is the only one with a influence, so they have the most, so they would get 10 victory points. And so forth, all the key regions like that you score. Now, Italia is the one that has the highest score. It actually scores for 3 first most, second most, and third most. And whoever has the most gets 25, whoever has second most gets 15, and third most 10. All the other provinces just score for first, whoever has the most, and second most, and they're all a lower amount, like 10 and 5 or 15 and 5 and so forth. So there's a few scoring provinces. There's Hispania, Narbonensis, Italia, Sicilia, Accia, Asia, Galatia, Mesopotamia, Egyptus, and Numidia. Those are the key provinces that you score. So you go around scoring for each player their victory points and move their markers up, however amount they scored for controlling having the most influence in key provinces. And then, as I think I mentioned earlier, then whoever has the most chaos points deducts 10 victory points, and whoever has the second most chaos points deducts 5 victory points from their score. And then that pretty much is all you do for the victory scoring. Then you'll get ready to start a new campaign season. You'll move the campaign marker. You'll restart the round marker at round 1. If anybody had obtained any of these cards with a purple diamond and used it, then they would get to flip them back over and they would be available again for the next campaign season. Then you clear the alliance display, remembering who was the last player, because that player will be the first one that gets to propose alliances at the beginning of the next season. So that's it. You play 4 seasons, possibly 5 if you're going for a longer game, but normal game is 4 seasons. At the end of the 4 seasons, whoever has the most victory points wins. If it's a tie for the most victory points, then it's whoever has the most victory points and the most influence tokens on the board. So now what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and play a little bit off camera and come back when I've gotten further along and show you some examples of play. Alright, I've skipped ahead now, played ahead. I guess I didn't skip, I played ahead. I'm at the beginning of campaign season 3. So the first thing you do at the beginning of a campaign season is draw new province tokens. So you draw twice as many as the number of players. So I have mine in this bag, so I'm just going to randomly draw 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright. Then you place those tokens. So we got Italia, another Italia, got another Italia, Numidia, which is where it's down here, got a Mesopotamia, which is over here, and one more, Hispania, which is here. Okay. The next thing we do is place Conquest cards. So we still have quite a few Conquest cards available from the previous season, but as far as I can tell from the rules, we don't discard those. We just draw again twice the number as there are players, so 6 additional cards. If anyone watches this video that knows that this is incorrect, please let me know in the comments. But as far as I could tell, it didn't say anything about discarding cards that already existed, that were already on the board. So I guess it just adds more. Alright, so I've got 6. I think I just added 6 more. I kind of distract myself when I'm talking. Okay, and the next part of the campaign season is determining alliances. Now, purple was the last player last season, so they get to propose the alliance, the first alliance matching for this season. So purple, who does he want to oppose? Well, he wants to probably get points in Italia, since it's the most, if you get influence in there, you can get the most points. And blue is a little bit ahead of him on victory points, while red's far behind. So purple probably wants to oppose blue, and he wants to be first player, so he's going to propose an alliance of him first and blue second. Well, actually he puts that there, and then the bidding, he decides how much he's going to bid. So he's going to bid 15 for that proposal. So now we go to the player to the left, and they decide if they want to bid more than 15 to change that up. The player to his left is red, And red, he wants to oppose blue himself. So red says, no, I'm gonna bid 20. I'm gonna bid 20 talents, and I propose this. You know, me first and blue in the opposition second. Blue, he says he doesn't care one way or the other, so he's going to pass. So now it comes back to purple, and purple says, well, all right, I'm going to bid 25 to change it back to what I had. And red doesn't want to lose too much money. He's not got a whole lot. So he says, okay, we'll leave it at that. So the first pairing is chosen, and purple has to lose 25 talents for his bid. So now the next player, who happens to be red, gets to choose, gets to do the next proposal. There's only one other player, so you might think, well, there's no point in bidding on that. You just move him into third place. But that's not true, because you may want to have red allied with blue, or you may want to have red allied with purple. So somebody may want to bid on where he goes. I mean, his turn will obviously be third no matter, but it is going to matter who he's allied with. So red, he does not want to be allied with blue, so he says he's going to bid 10 to make himself allied with purple, you know, be in the A alliance. Again, blue says he doesn't really care, so he's not going to bid. And purple, he doesn't want to lose any more money. He's only got 20 talents left, so he says okay, he's good with that. So red will end up third and allied with the purple player for this campaign season, and now he's got to pay the 10 talents that he bid. Alright, well, the next thing is you start your rounds of play. Our round marker is back up here on round 1, and because of the alliances, purple is the first player, so he's got to decide what he wants to do. Well, he really wants to get some influence here in Italia, and he does have his Caesar here, and there's several province tokens, so he's going to spend his last, if you have the Caesar, you can buy up to 2 province tokens, and so he's going to spend his last 20 talents to purchase 2 influence by purchasing 2 of those province tokens. So he'll remove these 2 and replace them with his influence tokens. Alright. So, you know, he has these Senate vote cards, but he only has his Senator 1 card, so he wouldn't get very many votes. He was hoping maybe some more Senator cards came out up here when we put the available Conquest cards, but none did. So he really isn't going to want to do any kind of vote, because he'll likely lose. He doesn't have any money, so he can't recruit. He can't, it's not really going to help him to move troops around, I don't think, or to attack anybody. So I think what he's going to do is the special tax. So if you remember the special tax, you can get between 5 and 25 talents, but for every 5 talents you tax, you have to get a chaos token. So he's going to get 25 talents, and then he'll get 5 chaos points. He's not too worried about that because he only has 2. The red has 18, and blue has 6. So he's just adding 5 more. I guess that will put him over blue, but it still won't be as much as red. So, because he taxed the, and to raise 25 talents, he's got to get 5 chaos points. Again, if he had only gotten 5, he would just have to get 1. If he had only gotten 10, he would have to get 2. But you can only get a maximum of 25, so he got the maximum, and that gives him 5 additional chaos points. Okay, that's purple's 2 actions, so now we go on to blue and see what he wants to do. Alright, well, blue has a lot of troops up here in Dacia, but he doesn't have any troops down here in Italia, where he's got 4 influence that are unprotected. So I think he's going to want to move some troops in there so nobody can just buy his influence without at least some kind of battle. So he has no general here, so he can't move troops from there. So for one of his actions, I think he's going to move this general up here to Dacia. And then for his second action, now because he has a general here, he can then move his troops, as many of these troops he wants, to any destination, but they have to stop when they enter a province with enemies. So he's going to move, we'll say, a cavalry and 4 soldiers over here into Italia. Let me set these up. Okay, so he's moved there, and you can move any number of land units when you do a move. So I could move the rest of the, and they don't have to go, they just have to start in the same spot, and they're all starting in Dacia here. So I think he's going to move the rest of these. They're all going to come over here, come through Galatia over here, and they're going to go to Mesopotamia and maybe get some battle going on over there. Alright, and that's blue's 2 actions, because he did the one where he moved the general up there to Dacia, and then for his other action he moved soldiers from Dacia to Italia and Mesopotamia. So that's blue's 2 actions. So now it's red's actions. So let's see what he might want to do. Alright, just to kind of show maybe how a card works or something. There's this available card that says gain a new influence marker in the province containing your Caesar. Well, red Caesar is in Italia, so he can pay 15 for that, and we'll just say he's going to do that. So here's his 15. So that was the cost. It shows 15, and the red X means it has to be played immediately, so he just does what it says. So he gets to put one of his influence markers where his Caesar is, which is in Italia. So let's get that. So there's his influence marker. We're just getting a little crowded in there. And for a second action, I think he'll just go ahead and spend another 10 and buy that province token. So here's his 10 going to the bank, and he'll, let's see if I can remove that province token and put another one of my influence tokens in there. Getting real crowded here in Italia. So now he has an equal amount of influence as blue in there. So he's pretty happy with that. Okay, well, that's everybody's taking a turn. So now we go to round 2, where everybody gets 2 more actions, starting again with purple. Alright, so I think what purple wants to do is he thinks he wants to get maybe some of these province tokens that are in Sicilia, but he doesn't have a leader or general there. He's got one general over here up in Mesopotamia, but he doesn't have a way to get him to Sicilia because he's not adjacent to a water area. He does have this trireme or galley here next to Sicilia, where when you do amphibious movement, you can move. You can move from a province that's adjacent to a sea zone where you have a leader, a general or Caesar, to any province that's adjacent to a zone where you have a ship. So he can, for one movement, one action, because his Caesar is adjacent to a sea zone, he can move him to Sicilia because his ship is adjacent to Sicilia. So that's one action. And for his second action, he's going to buy one of these province tokens for 10. So he'll take his 10, put it in the bank, buy this province token, and then he'll replace it with an influence token. So he puts that there. All right. And again, I did that because you have to have a leader where you buy an influence or a province token. All right, well, that's purple's 2 actions, so now we're on to blue. All right, so just so we can see how a battle works here. Blue, we'll say blue, maybe he's not too happy that red's got an equal amount of influence as he does here in Italia, and he way outnumbers red here. So, okay, so blue says he's attacking red. So let me get my thing over here for rolling dice. So the first thing you do is declare their attack. Then if any of the forces have galleys in adjacent sea zones, they could commit to they're going to be in the battle, but neither one does. And now here's the trick. Allies can commit troops to the battle. Well, if you remember, purple and red are allied up here, so purple can commit some of his troops. So red asks him, hey, do you want to help me out? Do you want to commit some of your troops? And purple says, yeah, you know what? I'll throw in 2 troops with you. So red now controls those with his battle. He really hopes he would throw in more, but purple doesn't want to lose all his forces, so he just commits 2. Okay, so now you fight your rounds of battle. So doesn't matter how many troops you have, each combatant will only roll 3 dice, but if they have a leader or a general in there, they can roll an additional dice. Or in Blue's case, he has this army training card which lets him get 1 extra dice in all land battles. So Blue gets to roll 4, and so he'll get 1 hit for that infantry because he can match it up with an infantry. Another hit because he can match it up with that infantry. A catapult he doesn't have, so that's a miss. And a catapult he doesn't have, so that's a miss. So he's going to get to kill off 2 of red's units. So red's going to kill off the 2 purples, of course. But now he gets to roll 3 dice, and because he has a leader there, his Caesar, he gets to roll 1 additional dice. So he gets to roll 4 also. He doesn't have a card, army training card. So that ship is a miss. If there had been a galley in an adjacent sea zone that was taking place, that would count. The blank is a miss. Ship is a miss. He does get 1 infantry, which would match up with any of the 3 infantry, so he gets 1 hit. So blue loses 1, and red has purple lose these 2. Okay, so now you can decide if you want to retreat. So red says, you know what, it's probably a better part of valor for me to go ahead and retreat. So he's going to retreat here into an adjacent area that does not contain enemy units. He could have stayed and fought another round of battle, and he still would have got to roll 3 dice, even though he only had 1 military unit left. But the most he could have got is 1 hit, because he could only match 1 infantry up. That wouldn't have taken the blue out, so probably better to get on out of there. So he lost the battle, so now he has to get 2 more chaos tokens. Anytime you lose a battle, as we've mentioned, you got to get 2 chaos tokens. He's getting 2 more, so he'll just get a 5 and get rid of these 3 1s. Maybe, if I can pick it up. So now he's got 20 chaos tokens. Okay, I think that was Blue's first action. When you're filming and trying to do all this talking, it's hard to keep track. But I think that was Blue's first action. So now that he's defeated Red and kicked him out of here, he can spend 10. Oh no, he can't. I was going to buy an influence, one of Red's influence tokens for 10 talents, but I have to have a leader in there, and I do not. Well, so he's trying to decide what he should do for his second action. So, he thinks he's got a good amount of talents and a lot of senator cards. So why doesn't he go ahead and take one of these Senate vote cards and call a Senate vote, because he thinks he can probably win. So with this one, if he wins this, he gets 15 victory points. He likes that. So for his second action, he's going to take this Senate vote card, and then that can be used at any time, only once per season, but at any time. So he's going to go ahead now, and he says, all right, I'm going to call a vote on Hail Caesar. Winner gets 15 victory points. And then so he can say how many votes he's using. Well, he's just going to start out. Well, let me move these out of the way. He's going to start out and say he's beating a 4. So now the next player to his left would vote, which is purple. Well, purple only has 1 vote, 1 Senate vote, so he just passes. Well, then it comes to red, and he's got. So red says I'm voting all my cards, which is 3, 4, 5, 6. So blue says, all right, well, I'm going to bid 8. Comes back to him. He adds 3 more. He bids 8. Well, red doesn't have any more. That's all he's got. So he's out. So the winner is blue, and he'll gain 15 victory points. So 5, 10, 15. Now this is used for the season, so it gets flipped over. Next season he can use that again. So now he would have to, if I can pick these up, he would have to discard these cards. But after a Senate vote, the person with the most influence in Italia gets to randomly pick one of the spent vote cards and keep that for themselves. But since the most influence in Italia is tied between red and blue, if there's a tie, nobody gets to pick a card, so these just get discarded. So now, blue doesn't have near as many votes. He's got a maximum of 5, where red has 6. So he would probably be able to win a future vote. But anyway, that's kind of how a vote works. That is both of blue's actions. So now red gets his 2 actions. So red kind of doesn't like that he was kicked out of Italia. He's only got the 1 military unit and his Caesar, so he's going to recruit. And you can recruit where you have a leader and you have influence tokens. So he's going to recruit here in Neapolis. Infantry costs 5, so I think he's going to get 2 infantry. And he may want to get a ship, because those can help in battles too. And a galley or trireme costs 15, so I think he's going to get that. And he'll go ahead and get a cavalry too. So 2 infantry, a cavalry, and a trireme. Okay, so he's added those there. The galley or trireme has to go adjacent to a province where you have a leader, so that's in this C zone here. And then the units you recruit have to go into a province where you have a influence and a leader. So they're in Neapolis. So that's Red's first action. He could, maybe go try to attack Blue again, but that's pretty even match. And just moving in there would be his one action. He wouldn't get to attack till next action. Well, let's just say that's what he's going to do first. So for his second action, because he has a leader here, he can do a move. So he's going to move his troops up here into Italia, kind of try to protect the tokens he has. So Blue won't be able to purchase a red token now, because there's red troops in there. He would have to defeat the red troops first. But that's his 2 actions. That's end of the round, so we could go to the 3rd round. But I think that kind of gives you an idea of how the game plays. I don't know if I covered everything, but I did cover each thing you could do, in my rules overview. Well, I thought I would go ahead and show the end of a season. So I've finished the last round. And so now we go to the taxes and upkeep phase. So each player will get money for each influence token they have on the board. So purple will get 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45 talents. Now I miscounted there. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55 talents for purple. Okay, so there's his 55 over there in his area. Alright, red will get 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. That's it. 50 for red. So there's his 50 talents added to his pool of money. And finally blue will get 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. That's it. Alright, blue gets 60. Alright, there's blue's 60 added to his pool of money. So that's the taxes and upkeep. Now we go to the victory points. So you'll see purple has the most here in Hispania, so he gets 10. So 5, 10. There's no others, so nobody gets second most. Red has the most here. There's no second most, so red gets 10 for that province. 5, 10. Right here, blue has 4 and red has 4. So they tie, so they both get the 25. So we'll do red, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Blue, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. And then purple has 2. He gets the second most. There is for a third most, but nobody has that. So 15 for purple for the second most. It's 5, 10, 15. Okay, we come down here to Neapolis. Looks like red and purple share it. 10 each. So red will get 5-10, purple will get 5-10. Purple has the only ones in Sicilia there, so they get 10, 5-10, so they're tied with blue here. Okay, blue gets 15 for Sicilia. There's no second most, so blue 5-10-15. Blue gets 10 for Asia, 5-10. Blue gets 10 for Galatia, 5-10. Red will get the most here for Mesopotamia, 10, and blue will get 5 for second most. So red gets 10, and blue gets 5. Alright, purple was the only one here, so he gets 15 for Egyptus, 5-10-15. Purple gets 10 for Numidia, 5-10. And that is it for victory points. Now the person with the most chaos points, which is red, he's got 25, so he loses 10 points. And the person with the second most loses 5. Well, blue has 8, but purple has 9, so purple will lose 5. Alright, then we move the season marker to the 4th and last season. If you want to play a longer game, you can play to the 5th. And then you move the round marker back up to number 1. And then you start the new season over. But that's how it works. Let me kind of give you my thoughts. As I was playing this, I started to remember, my thoughts on it from when I played it 7 years ago. And my problem with it then is the same as my problem with it now. Most of the battles take place over Italia because, at the end of the season, as I mentioned in the rules overview, you score whoever has the most influence in one of these scoring provinces, will get the higher victory points. So like purple here at the end of the season will get 10 victory points. Whoever has the second most gets 5. Well, here in Italia, whoever has the most gets 25. Whoever has the second most gets 15. So that's really where most of the battling and contesting over provinces take place. And my other problem with it is there's only a few provinces on the board that are worth any points. So a majority of the provinces in the map in this version nobody even cares about because they're not worth any points. And to me, it just kind of seems like a waste of the map. I mean, why are these provinces not worth anything? Like at least 5 points. If they're worth at least 5 points, maybe somebody would go to them, and there would be, less contesting over Italia. Maybe, I don't know. That's one of my problems. I also don't. I like the movement and the combat in the classic edition better. I don't like how you can just move all over the board with one movement action, move all kinds of troops and ships. So I like the movement and the combat in the classic edition better. And I do kind of like the victory points. So I don't know if I ever play this again. Maybe I would do some kind of hybrid where I use the cards and the victory points, but I would maybe make all the provinces that don't have a scoring in them currently be worth maybe 5 or 10 if they have a gold, 5 if they have a silver coin, and maybe use the movement and combat from the first edition. I don't know. But there's definitely some things that I like better in the first edition and some things I like better in this edition. So, I don't know. Let me know what you think if you're somebody that plays this a lot. And just let me know in the comments. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Now the person with the most chaos points, which is red, he's got 25, so he loses 10 points. And the person with the second most loses 5. Well, blue has 8, but purple has 9, so purple will lose 5. Alright, then we move the season marker to the 4th and last season. If you want to play a longer game, you can play to the 5th. And then you move the round marker back up to number 1. And then you start the new season over. So I just wanted to show that, and that'll wrap up this video.